from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. We're going to recap the Broncos win over Jacksonville, maybe look ahead just a little bit to what's going on with the New York Jets. And Ben, the Broncos win this game 23-13. It wasn't the cleanest game by all accounts, but I thought overall the team functioned in many ways that they did against the Giants. They were able to book in halftime with a couple of touchdown scores. They more or less made the game feel like they were in control. Even after Jacksonville scored that opening touchdown, it sort of just felt like the Broncos were the better team, even if it wasn't always very, very clear that that was the case.
Yeah, there really wasn't any doubt on that football game, but, you kind of felt like the Broncos should have had more, We talked about over the last couple of weeks, and they've very clearly gotten the message out that they want to score early, they want to score quickly, they want to be greedy with the points, I think is the phrase they're using. But the problem is that they've got 3 first drive points so far this season, on-script points, and only 20 first half points in over 2 games. That's not greedy. That's not quite getting it done. They've been scored in the second half after they're wearing defenses down, and that's a good formula against bad football teams. You're going to beat the Giants. You're going to beat the Jags. You'll beat the Jets with that formula. You're not going to beat the Kansas Cities. You're not going to beat the Pittsburghs. You're not going to beat the Ravens with that because they're so capable of scoring so quickly that you've got to. It'll make you one-dimensional. You'll get behind. It'll make you one-dimensional. You can't wear people down with long drives anymore. You got to put up points, and that puts Teddy Bridgewater in the worst possible situation for his skill set.
Right, and so understanding that, and we've said this all along on the radio show as well as here on the TV show, understanding that this is an opportunity over these first few games to sort of hone your craft a little bit, to sort of sharpen your tools, figure out exactly who you are and try to actually become that, because you're right. You have the Ravens, the Steelers, eventually the Chiefs. You have much better teams on the horizon. And the Jets this week represent another team, at least the way they're playing right now, that you can continue to sort of work on things, and you don't have to play a perfect game. There are some concerns coming out of this win. The penalties are a big one, the concern. Special teams remains a little bit of a concern after you gave up the kickoff return touchdown. But I come back to the offense and the defense. I mean, the defense, after giving up that 83-yard drive, only gave up 106 yards the remainder of the game. And that's unbelievably impressive when you think about this, because they're a bend-don't-break defense by design, and they only give 106 yards for the remainder of the game. Now, that says a lot about Jacksonville, too, but I'm just saying that's those kind of performance on the offense and defense. I think they can at least go to toe-to-toe. But the thing is you want to be a team that goes more than just toe-to-toe. You want to win games. They're going to have to do more across the board.
Yeah, you don't want to go toe-to-toe. You want to Mike Tyson knock somebody out in the first 30 seconds.
But we're still in the crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, right. We're walking. We're not even jogging yet. We're walking.
Is it jogging or jogging?
Soft J. I can never.
Okay.
I think that, you're right. But like for me, I see, like, I'm looking ahead now. I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, they've checked these boxes. Now we're on to the second set of boxes. Like, is this a playoff contention team? They can win football games now. Now, is this a playoff contending type team? And the answer to that is we don't know yet. They're able to handle business against teams they need to handle business against, and that's probably going to get them close. I mean, if you factor the Jets in, and that's probably a win, and you look ahead a little bit, you got a Detroit game, you got a Cincinnati game, that's probably 5 wins just right there. And then so that puts them at their win total from last year. And then you look, if you get 3, maybe 4 more wins across the rest of the schedule, that probably puts you in the playoffs. So they're probably flirting with being a wild card team. But are they really a playoff team, or are they going to backdoor themselves in off a bad schedule? We need to know, and we'll know over the next 4 weeks.
Right. So I think that there's 2 things at work here, though, because it's okay to be excited about what they're doing and still have reservations about what's ahead. So
right. I'm excited about the W's, but I want the context of what we've done it against.
100%. And it's funny because I also feel like on the other side of this, we often say there are no style points in the NFL. So winning in the NFL is a difficult thing, right? All these cliches. Well, there are people that are saying the Broncos should have beat Jacksonville more if they were going to be that team.
Dub's a dub, though. And at the end of the day, there are only 2 undefeated teams in the AFC right now. The Raiders, who did it against the Ravens and Steelers, and the Broncos, who did it against the Jags and the Giants.
Which is why the Raiders are on most power rankings in the belief of many to be ahead of the Broncos, at least as we sit here. The record is the record. They're both tied for 2-0. And you can't change who you play, but the fact is the Raiders' wins do look a little bit more impressive because one of them was on the road against the Steelers, very tough place to play, and at home in primetime against the Ravens. They had to win that one overtime, but the point's still valid. Now, where you go from here is you say, got to get better with the run. even though the Broncos are actually top 5 in yards per game, rushing yards per game.
A lot of that is the 70-yard
but we
carry by
also
Melvin.
understand it's that 70-yard run by Melvin Gordon is buoying everything. And we said that after the first one. We said, listen, these numbers are not very good if you take that away. And you saw a little bit more of what they're like. Now, Vic Fangio said in his Monday press conference that teams were going to extreme measures. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Giants went to extreme measures to stop the run. So at least we have to kind of frame that a little bit. As they sold out, they wondered if Teddy Bridgewater could beat him with his arm, and Teddy showed that he can. So now what happens when teams play them a little more balanced? That could be even better news, hopefully, for this offense.
Right. And this, to be honest with you, this New York defense is not very good. The Jets defense, this is kind of a get-right game in terms of concept with working some things out. I'd like to see the Broncos run the ball a little more. I'd like to see them use the screen game a little bit more, get right on some of those timing things against a New York defense that frankly, is just not very good.
Well, and it's a simultaneous thing, right? Because the Jets' offense is turning the ball over a lot there. Zach Wilson had 4 interceptions this last week. Can't count on that every single week. But this Broncos defense is priding itself on becoming that kind of defense. They want to get more takeaways. They got 2 interceptions against Trevor Lawrence. And now Zach Wilson comes to town, and he's obviously has his confidence probably shaken a little bit. So this is an you're right, 100% right. Your home opener, get right game. Broncos have an opportunity for all the style points that everybody was looking for from this Jacksonville win.
Yeah, and they should be able to handle business. It's an underwhelming defense. It's an undertooled offensive line with the injuries that they've had. This should be an easy Broncos win.
Things that were really positive, though, because I don't want to sound like we're just being negative about the win, because it's a win, and the Broncos have never been able to overlook any teams over the last several years. Courtland Sutton, return of the MAC, 9 catches, 159 yards. He looked every bit like the dominant wide receiver one when he was a Pro Bowler a couple of years ago.
Glad he and Teddy got on the same page, because that chemistry hadn't been there, honestly, through training camp, everything else. He had it with Judy, didn't really have it with Courtland. It was good to see that happen. Hopefully that'll open things up for some of these other guys. We can't have Melvin Gordon being the second leading receiver by yardage on the team and expect to win football games over good teams. You just can't have that happen. Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler's going to have to get more involved.
I'm not completely disagreeing with you, but did we not say during the course of training camp the running backs catching out of the backfield would be a big deal? Now, Melvin Gordon got a lot of those yards at the very end of the first half when it really didn't matter.
It was also on 2 catches.
It was on 2 catches. And the point's valid, and I'm 100% with you, especially with KJ Hamler only getting 1 catch in the game. But I also lean back to the other side of this thing is like, well, we thought Teddy Bridgewater would be checking it down a lot. This guy has more 20-plus yard intended shots down the field than any other quarterback in the league. So what we know about the Broncos offense right now is a little bit backwards than what we expected.
True, very true. But there are going to be some things that they've gotten away with in the first 2, probably get away with it in the next game that you're not going to get away with in the 4 following. And so they've got to clean some things up. You don't want to be the most vertical team when it comes to playing teams like good defenses like the Ravens and the Steelers, because they'll take advantage of that. So, you need to work the intermediate, the short stuff. I love the balance, getting 9 receivers involved, but the bulk of the yardage went places that it's not going to be sustainable long term. You can't throw the ball to Courtland Sutton 12 times every game and expect to come away with what you came away with against the Jags.
No, you're right about that, and that's why we kind of come back to the run game and saying who needs to be involved here. I love that he got wide receiver 1 treatment. And I certainly want to get the ball in the hands of your best players, and Courtland Sutton is one of your best players on offense. But that's the thing, is eventually teams are going to take him away. It is going to be up to KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, Albert Okwuegbunam, and maybe then it is a little bit by committee. In the end, for the Broncos, what really is important here is that they have multiple ways to win, because there are going to be games where you're playing against better defenses. There are going to be games where you're playing against teams that get up on you, and then you need to find a way to come back in those games, which, again, historically Teddy Bridgewater has had problems. I want to see this team impose their will. I want to see this team figure out this is how we win, regardless of what you're going to do. You have an identity, which we sort of expected, heavy run, some of the checkdowns. They haven't really done any of that, at least right now. And maybe that is because of what Vic Fangio said, is teams are loading up in the box. That could be the case. And maybe they're just saying, hey, look, you're going to load up, we're going to take some shots. But the point being is, you still should be able to win in those scenarios. You still have to get the tough yards up front, and you still should set up some screens. You still should find ways to mix it up, because you're going to come up on opponents that are going to see your weaknesses, and they're going to say, okay, well, we'll dare you to do this, and we don't think that you're very strong at that, because this is not a complete offense by any means.
It's not. And the first two teams they've played, Jacksonville and the Giants, have stacked the box against the run. Honestly, they respected Teddy Bridgewater. They respected Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. They want to take that away and then work on the rest of it. So far, it's backfired on teams. We'll see if it continues to do so.
Okay, we'll be back tomorrow with another installment of Broncos Country Tonight. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching.